All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of Big Bang Wrestling this week. We have a special guest this week as we have the host of the Angle podcast, Mr. Joey Karni, joining us. Joey, how's everything going, man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
No problem. We're honored to have you on as a special guest this week. You just had a big interview on your show this week.
I did. I just had the Real World's champion, NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis. Just talked to him for about an hour. And this guy, man, he's one of the best wrestling minds I think we have today.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that interview. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I did watch a little bit of it. Probably watched half of it, really. And dude, from what I saw, it was a great interview.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, guys. Appreciate it.
We just had the Royal Rumble happened this past weekend where we saw Edge. He won the men's Royal Rumble after coming back from an injury. And we saw Bianca Belair win the women's Royal Rumble. And then had a little bit of controversy after that between her and Rhea Ripley. Joey, did you see that at all? Or I know me and Nick, we've talked about it some. What was your thoughts on that?
I did. When it happened, I didn't see it. I saw it after when when wrestling Twitter blew it up. That's when I saw it. Honestly, if it was a botch, I mean, it happens. Listen, things like that happen. Do I think that it's going to matter? No, because I think both women are going to be in great matches at WrestleMania. So either way, doesn't matter. When you're watching any other show on TV, if you're watching Law and Order, if you're watching Jersey Shore, anything in between there, you're not critiquing like, oh, that's bad acting. That you watch it to enjoy it, and I think that's where the fans need to stay. To be honest with you,
it seems like now the fans really want to just judge everything rather than watch it. And remember, like watch for the entertainment that it's supposed to be, and they want to judge each performer, and they think everybody else should follow suit in a sense.
Yeah, and that's something that I have been very vocal about, as Marcus knows, is that wrestling fans lately are insanely ridiculous and critical about things that really don't matter in the end.
Yeah. I also too, like, I sometimes I'll be in the moment and I'll like complain, and then I'll think back. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me retract that statement. Yeah. But I just think today it's like complain first and then think about it is what we get. Like the fans, I just let it sink in first. Let it happen, and then, wait for something else to happen before you jump to the conclusion.
And I'm guilty of that of myself on this podcast. I did it with, a couple of matches at Wrestle Kingdom. And then when they came back and worked more matches, I was like, okay, now I see what's happening. I apologize.
It takes a real man to like acknowledge that too. So I give you credit for that, because a lot of fans will not take credit, or they'll not acknowledge that, and then they'll just keep complaining and just complain and just complain.
Right. I know Bianca Belair, after she won the Women's Royal Rumble, everybody's instantly thinking, at least people that I've talked to and what I've seen, a lot of people are thinking she's going to challenge Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's title at Mania. Do y'all think she's going to do the same, or do y'all see her going a different direction with it?
I think, honestly, it's going to be Bianca. Just because they've been somewhat involved in a storyline over the last few months. They tagged here and there. And I just think that because Bianca's a new face to WWE in general, and she just got put on SmackDown and she's just getting some sort of push, I think it only makes sense to keep her there, because you don't want to move her around so quickly and have people confused. Keep her on SmackDown. Let her go against Sasha. And I think let her beat Sasha, to be honest with you.
I would like to see her beat Sasha myself, because like when Sasha first came back, it was great. And I feel like after the Carmella, she's beating everybody. I don't really think there's many people left for her to beat. So putting the belt on a new face presents a whole lot more possibilities.
Yeah. And they need to stick with it and build it. Let her build that herself and that title.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're going to get from that is you're going to see, a babyface Bianca, which is new because in NXT when she was there, she was a heel.
Yeah.
And she was damn good at it too. So I think now that she's a face, she kind of seems like the ultimate baby face, where it's like people are gonna take her lightly, and I think that's what's gonna happen with Sasha. They're both gonna go into this match as baby faces. Bianca's gonna get the win, she's gonna win the title, and then we're gonna see a heel Sasha come, and then that's gonna continue the storyline, but just further that.
Yeah, definitely.
Bianca, you know?
And I think Sasha's better as a heel anyway. So.
Oh, 110%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then with Edge, I know first, like, even as Joey had mentioned before, you know, a lot of people are complaining that, you know, Edge, he came back, you know, from injury, won the Royal Rumble, and they think, well, we're assuming he's going to be a part-timer, you know, even after he said he's going to wrestle full-time until Mania. But a lot of people are complaining about that instead of having WWE push new faces. Me personally, I was kind of hoping Cesaro was going to win the Rumble.
Yeah, I was with you on that one.
And have them push a guy that, you know, a lot of fans are already behind and recognize that he deserves a big push because it's been long overdue.
Yeah.
I think Cesaro would be a great pick. Here's why and at one point I did say, you know what, I want Cesaro to win the Rumble, but then I retracted that because I was like, whoever wins the Royal Rumble is getting a huge gift, you know? Someone like Cesaro is organic. Like his if you were to turn him face and put him in great matches like he's having right now with Daniel Bryan, with whoever else on SmackDown, with Shinsuke, turn him face and let him build that way. He's gonna grow organically, just like Drew McIntyre. He doesn't need a Royal Rumble win to be like boosted up. Let someone else who needs that extra boost win the Rumble, and then let Cesaro go to Fastlane or Elimination Chamber, and then have him win a match there, and then earn his shot. You know, I think the Royal Rumble is really for it's like the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's to boost and elevate somebody. So someone like Cesaro, I think, is honestly above that. Put him in a upright position, and guys is going to go to the moon.
Oh, definitely.
That's definitely. I definitely agree with that.
I think Cesaro is past. He's past the Royal Rumble at this point. I think it's just a matter of, you know, a yes or no in booking, and he's there.
Because that match that he had with Bryan on SmackDown tonight was a great match. It was short. In my opinion, I thought it was a short match, but it was still an excellent match. Yep. And the finish, like, it completely surprised me. I did not see Bryan tapping out to end the match.
You know, it was a great TV match. And, no, I did not expect a submission. Definitely did not expect that.
No. What was great about that was the authenticity of it, where you saw that huge backbreaker that Cesaro hit on Bryan, which threw him up and just landed him on his, and you saw the pain and you heard, you know, Bryan in agony, grabbing his back right into the Cesaro swing. Bryan didn't know what to do, either grab his head or hold his back because he was in pain after that. And then put him in the sharpshooter was a great homage to Tyson Kidd, his former tag team partner.
Yeah.
Getting that win, it was surprising, but it made sense because of the lineup of those moves. You know, Bryan's back was hurt from all these different things. He taps out, makes Cesaro look like $1 million. Yeah.
And like you said, and like you said, Daniel Bryan did something that is very lost on this current generation, and that is selling.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, because somebody got ran over last week and then got up 10 seconds later.
You know, a lot of people predicted Bryan to win the Royal Rumble, yet he keeps saying his family is first before pro wrestling, and he's kind of ending his full-time run. So, why would he win the Royal Rumble? You know, that doesn't make sense. So what he wants to do, he wants to put over talent and win the Intercontinental Championship. And I think what he did tonight on SmackDown says that, you know, it says that best.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and who better to put people over?
Yeah.
I kept hearing the rumors, and I was waiting to hear about Aleister Black coming back into the Rumble this past weekend, and I haven't heard anything else about it lately.
I've heard nothing. I heard a few. I don't know if it was a month or so ago that they had major plans for him or something like that. I don't know if you guys heard that. But if he was in the Rumble, it would only make sense to have him win it. So if he's not going to win it, keep him out, because if you have plans for him, he's been gone for how many months now? If you have him in there and he gets thrown out, what's the point? I said bring him back like on a SmackDown and like interrupt a segment. Then that's like a big return. You know, having him return at the Rumble and then lose.
Yeah, ain't going to serve no purpose.
Yeah.
You know, but they said, well, last I heard is that he's supposed to make this big dramatic appearance on a episode of SmackDown coming up soon.
I hope so.
You know, then like some other, like Keith Lee, he was also rumored to win. I don't think he was even in the match, was he?
I don't think he was.
I was at work, so I didn't get to watch it. But I was reading through the list of everybody who was in it, and he wasn't even in the match.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't in the match. What happened was out of the ring in real life, he's in a relationship with Mia Yim, aka Reckoning on from Retribution.
Right.
He tested positive for COVID. So I don't know if he tested positive or because nothing has been announced. She announced that she tested positive, but maybe he's just either quarantining himself or he tested positive. Because honestly, that he was my pick to win the Rumble. Like I thought I was dead set that he was winning the Rumble.
And so I didn't hear that about Keith Lee or Mia Yim.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that. So that's definitely news to me.
Yeah, she actually put a post about it on Twitter. I think the day of the Rumble that she tested. She previously had tested negative, but now she tested positive. So that has to be the reason why Keith Lee wasn't involved.
Has to be then. Yeah, definitely. Then Seth Rollins, they brought him back for the Rumble, and I thought he was going to be on SmackDown tonight and didn't see him on there.
I actually, right when I was, before I signed on to do your show, I tweeted about Seth Rollins because when you think about superstars who are coming back, like everyone's like, oh, he's going to be the Messiah when he comes back, all this stuff, the heel. You know, think about, I don't know if you guys remember back in the day when they were bringing back Brodus Clay. And they were all these vignettes were like he's this big bad tough guy. Then it comes back dancing, completely different from what they marketed him as coming back. Look at Liv Morgan, look at all these Lana, look at all these superstars who they like predict or marketed as they're coming back as this, and then when they come back they surprise you.
Like Emma, remember when they have
Emelina, Emelina. Whatever that was.
Like they did the big net. She came on the stage. Next thing you know, she got released. I don't think she had a match, did she?
No. You see, I don't think Seth's going to get released after he comes back.
No.
But I do think that we're going to get we're going to get the Messiah, but we're going to get a face version where like now he's a dad. Like now he's got a purpose and a true calling. Right. And I think that now we're going to get like, you can't go have a kid come back and be a heel. Doesn't make sense,
could, but he's probably the only one that could.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then again, that would require someone wanting to be with MJF.
True, but crazy stuff happens. So.
That is very true. That is very true.
So, do y'all think that Seth? Y'all think he was a better character as a face or a heel?
I like him as a heel. He's the chicken shit heel. He plays the whole, he acts like he's going to fight, but then he doesn't want to fight, but then he comes back and he wins. Yeah. I felt that was him at his best because the promos he was doing, the matches he was having, he was really having good matches during that time. It's
kind of hard to like differentiate a heel and a face nowadays in wrestling.
Yeah, because there's so like
in WWE. Yeah. And like when you think back to Seth being a face, like was he a face or was he just his authentic self? Like there was things he did where he was booed. That's what led to his heel turn, is him being himself and fans being like, this is, BS. We want something different.
Yeah.
Can he be, what do I like him better as? Honestly, I like him as a heel. He's more entertaining that way. But if you turn the Messiah face, I mean, that could also be very entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely could.
So.
Then another thing I was wondering about too, and it was after these world title matches, when is Miz going to cash in his Money in the Bank? That's something I've been waiting on for weeks now.
It's a very good question.
So he has like 300. He has a year from when he won it, right?
Is it from when he won it or from when Otis won it?
There was never any. Never. I mean, I think honestly they dropped the ball with this Money in the Bank contract.
Well, the rule has always been it's 1 year from when you win it.
Yeah. I always try to have these like crazy, different possibilities when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think Miz is cashing in. I like their faces there. I think what's gonna happen. I mean, listen. Right now, where we're seeing WrestleMania going with Miz, it's gonna be like Miz and Morrison versus Bad Bunny and like Booker T. That's probably where we're going with that.
God, I hope not.
Would I want that? No. What I do want is a one-on-one match between Miz and Morrison with that contract on the line, and then Morrison wins it.
Now,
that's what I would love to see.
That can be good.
And Morrison has that contract. You build him up for the rest of 2021.
Yeah.
And then he cashes in that contract because I think at this point, would I love to see Miz as the world champion? Absolutely. Yeah. The way he is right now, he's freaking annoying. I'm sorry. Miz and Morrison together are annoying.
Yeah.
Like when they first brought Morrison back, I was thinking they're going to make him this big star, put him back with the Miz. And you remember how they were, what was it, back in 2016, I think it was? Or no, it was before that. It was like 2012. Like 10 years ago.
He was like the Intercontinental Champion before he left the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He had one match on Raw with Miz for the title.
Yeah, the U.S. title, I think it was.
No, he had one on Raw for the WWE title too, when Miz was champion.
Really? Wow.
I think that was about the same time he was paired with Alex Riley too.
I haven't had to been 2011 somewhere in there.
It was a while back, but they had a match, and that was probably one of my favorite Miz matches.
I think they both need a singles push, and I think them going at it against each other would like elevate them both because there's so much history, and their chemistry is impeccable. You can't match it.
No, they got great chemistry together.
And now that on Impact, Taya Valkyrie, who is actually married to John Morrison, she's been written off. So I don't know if anything broke about her leaving the company. I think she is leaving the company. I think her contract is up. She signed on to finish her like one more match with Deonna Purrazzo to put her over. If she shows up in WWE and she's with Morrison, I think there's a chance that he's going to be in a very, very significant spot, either with in the middle of the card or main event. If they pair them together.
Yeah, I'd at least like to see him seriously competing for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah,
and he can do it. He can do it.
Another question I've had, going back to Edge, he's appeared on Raw. He went on NXT, confronted Finn Balor and Pete Dunne. And then he went on SmackDown and had that little thing with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And then it turns out it gets done by Kevin Owens. But who do y'all feel like he's going to end up challenging for the belt?
Probably Drew.
I just Drew and Booker. Roman. We were just talking about Booker T. Both Drew and Roman.
Please don't put Booker T in the main event of WrestleMania.
God. Yeah, we had that one time already.
Edge and Booker would be a good match.
We had,
though.
It would 100%. 2004.
But both Drew and Roman are both big guys. I don't. They can probably have a good match, with Edge, but I don't think that would be as good as say a match with him and somebody smaller being Finn Balor or Pete Dunne.
Well, when you put Edge next to Roman and Drew, he's really not that much smaller. Yeah, I mean Drew is bigger than Edge, taller than Edge, but it's not like Ray and Batista or something like that.
I think what people are looking at now is that they're thinking about Edge being like brittle or something, where like he was injured, and he's older, and he's like fragile. And I don't think that's the case, to be honest with you. I think he can go.
Yeah.
And honestly, I want to see him after what we saw tonight from Roman. I want to see him go against Roman. I originally slated him to be against Drew just because of what we saw on Raw, but
Right.
Roman versus Edge, and if you think about it, it's like pride versus ego, spear versus spear. Like there's a lot of things that you can market with that match, and if we know WWE, they like their marketing. So
but
everything's a gimmick. So
last time they had the whole pride versus pride thing, spear versus spear. Roman pulled out the main event. That's
that's true.
Listen, the real question here is not who Edge is going to face, but whoever he does face, is he really going to win the world title or is he going to lose? That's the real question.
I doubt he'll win the belt at this point. I think they're just using him as a good name opponent to put over one of these guys and have a good match with them.
Now, here's my thing. I want y'all to hear this out for a minute, right?
Yeah.
All right. We just saw the ratings between NXT and AEW this past week, right? NXT did god awful against AEW. But they just announced Edge a day before the show, I think it was.
Yeah.
Day before or the morning of.
Yeah, it was very short.
Yeah.
All right, so what if Edge challenges either Dunn or Balor for the title? I think he'd have a good match with either one of them. Make him the champion the NXT champion. He'll raise the title up to where more people are looking at it because it's Edge, And then also, if somebody happens to beat him for the NXT title, look at how much a star they just made that other person.
I could see it.
That'd be something.
I doubt they'll do it. I doubt they'll do it, but I can see it.
Well, my only thing with that is that NXT has always been presented as the developmental. I don't want to say underneath because that's an insult, and I feel NXT has consistently been a better wrestling product. But with a title like that, a guy like Edge, I think that kind of defeats the purpose of him winning a title like that.
I agree. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. Why would he be the champion of their next generation?
Right.
Whatever you want to label NXT as, third brand it's supposed to be, but they don't label it that way anymore.
Yeah, see, that's how it's supposed to be. And a lot of times that's how they try to market it. And then other times they'll switch it back to developmental.
Right. They go back and forth on it all the time.
Yeah.
Like if it's a third brand, why wasn't it on Survivor Series this year? Why wasn't it more predominant at WrestleMania? Why wasn't it more predominant at the Royal Rumble? It's not the third brand. That was for that Survivor Series.
It's because they had no people and that was their last thing that they could put together.
Yep.
I mean, if they really do want to treat it as a third brand and have any chance of really competing, and in my opinion, any chance of competing with AEW for ratings, because it doesn't look like they're going to move from Wednesday nights. That's going to be out the window there. But I feel like that'd be the best chance they have if they'd put Edge as a world champion.
Here's the thing, though, too. Everyone's always talking, and this is actually the first time I'm going to bring this up because and I don't think anybody ever talks about it. Everyone's always discussing the ratings war between AEW and NXT. AEW is its own entity; it's its own show. So if they do horrible ratings, that's their only show. Yep. WWE does not thrive off of NXT having better ratings than AEW. WWE thrives off ratings from Raw and SmackDown. That's where. Let's be honest. That's where they get. That's why WWE is what it is because of Raw and SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
So if NXT loses every week in the ratings to AEW, I don't think it's gonna tarnish them.
Well, and another thing is, and it's funny we brought up the developmental thing because whenever the conversation of those ratings comes up, the thing you always hear is, it's just the developmental brand against the whole brand of another company.
Yeah. And they got Sting, and they got all these people, and
right. They got half of the WWE Hall of Fame over there. It seems like,
yeah. And they still somewhat compete with AEW. They lose, but sometimes it's very it's hand in hand. It's closer than what you would think if you would put on paper AEW and developmental program.
If you really look at the numbers consistently, the only difference is 150,000.
Yeah. Consistent.
And that's very consistent. It's rare that it's not like that.
I think this past week was the biggest split I've seen between the two.
But AEW also had like a beach break pay-per-view type thing. So like
they did like a Clash of the Champions style like WCW used to do.
Yeah. And they had John Moxley and Kenny Omega, that that main event, that obviously like that was going to be Young Bucks, and it was just that main event is what sold that show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then Festus and Little Festus and
who said that again? That was wasn't that Tama? No.
Oh yeah, Tama called him Festus and Little Festus.
Yeah, because I saw that and I freaking busted out laughing when I saw that one.
I couldn't hold it back. I died. Yeah.
Festus and Little Festus.
Yeah. Yeah, what did he say? He said Kenny O'Schmega, the middle-aged Bucks, and Festus and Little Festus.
So while we're talking about like the Young Bucks and Omega and all that, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of skip around for a minute. But after the main event on AEW, we saw Kenta come on and attack Moxley, hit him with a GTS. Pretty much like, I guess that's signaling a partnership of sorts between AEW and New Japan.
Well,
or are they just doing it a one-off for this match?
To me, right now, it just looks like it's for this match only. Moxley has had this belt now for a year. And he's actually already been stripped of it once for inactivity.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised he wasn't stripped again, which kind of also tells me there might be something more to this, because he actually should have been stripped months ago.
Yeah.
But because like I said, right now to me it looks like it's just for this match, and I hope it's only for this match, but that's just my personal thought on
it. This I think is a long time in the making. You go back to Omega being in New Japan, Jericho being in New Japan, JR being in New Japan, Don Callis being in New Japan, how they're all tied together here. The Machine Gun, Carl Anderson, and Doc Gallows.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, a lot of the people who we see today are from who are at some point were in New Japan. And John Moxley is having a match with Kenta in a few weeks. And they had a face-to-face, I think, last week or so at the taping for New Japan.
Yeah, and it was last Friday.
That news broke. It was like the internet broke. So, like, from there, I kind of predicted something was going to happen with Kenta. But I don't think Kenta's the topic of discussion here, because we that was kind of predictable. Where, like, you have Kenta coming in, you have the Impact World Heavyweight Champion, you have the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Well, where's the fourth member? And that's, I think, is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I think.
I read something earlier today, come to think of it, where it's talking about Nick Aldis possibly working with AEW.
Was it from my interview? Because he talked about it there too.
Oh, did?
Yeah, and it's funny. I got tagged in something from my interview today from Fightful, and it was about that. So I thought that's what you were talking about, because I didn't see anything before. And then I just get tagged in today. Like,
I'm trying to remember what site it was on. Was it SC Scoops, I think? And they pretty much asked Aldis, like, would he be defending the NWA title or be making any appearances for AEW? And he said he has no interest in it, from what I saw. Because apparently...
what he told me in our interview, he flat out said, like, I'm confident in my ability and I'm confident in my championship. I don't need those other, championships to kind of elevate myself. He's not very an ego-driven guy. And he's like, you want to talk about the history of this belt and what it represents? Like, go ask Ric Flair, go ask Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race. He goes, I don't need to be in that position. Like, is there interest? Yeah, it can be fun, but like, he's not planning on that.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But I think it'd be entertaining to have like 4 world champions
all on one show.
Yeah. Like at least a tag team match or something.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I remember It was actually the first pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view I watched. It was Armageddon 2006, I believe. And I thought it was a big deal because they had the WWE champion and World Heavyweight champion teaming up together in a tag match. Cena and Batista.
Yeah. Again, that was the time when they actually made the brands separate. Like really separate. Where like it
truly was
only WrestleMania that you would see someone else on the other show.
Yeah, that was when they were doing I think it was one interpromotional match for WrestleMania every year. Yeah, and then other than that, the brands were separate until Survivor Series and Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
But
the good old days.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to say about this. I've never really been a fan of AEW. It's just not my style. I've tried, and I've honestly sat down and tried numerous times. I just can't get into it. And I've been a longtime fan of New Japan. And to me, it's just two completely different worlds. As anybody that watches AEW knows, it's very sports entertainment driven. It's a lot of what you would see, stuff that WWE does, and they pretty much created that style. It seems to me like AEW is just trying to carry that on, which, I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just not what I like. And with New Japan, where it's still presented for the most part as legitimate sport, and because that's the Japanese culture, I just don't see those two things meshing well at all.
Yeah, I can see that too.
It puts eyes on New Japan superstars, but like I kind of agree with you there. With like AEW is like the rated R version of WWE product,
right?
Pretty much
PG-13 rated R, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's TV-14.
There you go. And a lot of fans are not going to like to hear that because it's like you're either Democrat or Republican. You're like WWE or AEW. It's like you have to pick, and it's like no, you don't. Yeah. Whoever said it? Whoever said that? Whoever created the term part timer. Like there's a lot of things in pro wrestling that a lot of people just you hear it once and it just carries over, and now everybody thinks that's a thing. Like
somebody said it in the chat room and it sticks.
Yeah, I never heard anybody call or anybody's contract say part timer or you have to like AEW or WWE.
Yeah,
none of that nonsense.
Yeah.
So, I know when I talked to you the other day, Joey, you said you had heard some things about this deal between WWE and Peacock, where they sold the network and the streaming services to them. So what was it that you had heard about that, since you've heard more than I'm sure I have?
I was actually on yesterday WWE's earnings call, their quarterly call, and they missed their goal by 47%.
Jeez.
This quarter. And I felt it today as a WWE shareholder. I can tell you that.
God.
It dropped.
How much did they go down?
They went from 57 to 49.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good.
From yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday to today.
Yeah, that hurts.
Yeah. So, and what's really funny? They had Stephanie McMahon on there, and they had a lot of other executives on the call. And it's funny to hear people, especially Stephanie McMahon, like acknowledge their loss, but in a way of where it sounds like they won. If that makes sense.
That sounds like a typical Vince McMahon thing.
Like we missed nearly we're down 6 million ticket sales, but subscribers are 20 million people. I was like, you failed. Like what? You can throw numbers all day long. You can throw $1 million numbers all day long, but you failed. Like, and they're like sounding prideful, and they're like, well, we have 20 million this and this.
But
fact of the matter is, COVID changed everything. They're down now because of ticket sales. They're dying because of ticket sales. When we go back to whatever normal life is, we're probably not going to have live events, TV live events, but you're not going to have those Thursday and Saturday shows and all that other stuff that they did, because
you're not going to have the house shows and the specials, and it's all going to be very limited.
Exactly. what changed now is that because of COVID, there's more subscribers than ever on streaming platforms. You can see that with Netflix or Peacock, Hulu, where ESPN Plus, whatever you use. So WWE is like thriving on that end. So they sold their licensing rights to Peacock, which is Comcast, NBC, whatever you want to call it, for $1 billion just for the US. So they still have the other countries to sell to. So just the US, they made $1 billion. So if you ask me, it's a very successful deal. But the big picture, they missed their goal by 47%. And you can take that however you want.
That's the big picture. They missed their goal. I mean,
they're not making money.
Yeah. And that just proves that ticket sales, live events, they matter.
Well, pro wrestling has always been a live event business.
Yeah.
That's where it thrives.
And another thing too, they mentioned their ratings being stagnant, where it's like, oh, Monday Night Raw ratings went up when we created the Thunderdome. I want to be like, well, they went up from the PC days, but they're down the worst they've ever been.
Yeah.
They didn't say that part. They just said
worse
they're up.
What's y'all's thoughts on the Thunderdome exactly? Because me personally, I don't feel like it made a difference from what I was seeing on TV.
I think it's so distracting when you're trying to watch a match and you just see faces popping up everywhere.
Have you guys seen yourselves on there yet?
No.
Mine and it ain't good enough to even do it. I've wanted to though.
I saw Benoit on there once though.
Do what?
Yeah.
I said Benoit got shown on there once.
I saw an AEW logo too.
Somebody showed it Omega on there once too.
No, I think he was on there.
Yeah, that's right.
People were saying that was legitimate. I don't know that what, because he tweeted about it too.
I mean, that's something he would do.
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was him.
I was on there like 5 times, and it wasn't a great experience, to be honest with you. Like they give you the live stream to watch. So like, for those of you listening right now, or when you post this, if you don't pay for the WWE Network and you want to watch a pay-per-view for free, sign up for the Thunderdome, because they allow you to stream it for free and you're on it. So if you don't want to pay for the network, there's your loophole, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? I might do that.
Yeah, they give you a link.
That now.
You don't have, and that's what I thought too. I was like, if when they start doing this whole thing, like maybe you have to be like a network member to like be on, in the Thunderdome. Nope, anybody can do it as long as you have a working email. So they send you a link, you click it, you open it, and it's just like what we're doing here, and you watch the pay-per-view.
So wouldn't that like make people want to cancel their network subscriptions?
Yes and no, because then you don't get all the documentaries and all the other stuff that's on the network, which honestly I think is valuable stuff if you're a wrestling fan. The new Yokozuna thing they just put up
is amazing.
Brilliant. It's like amazing. You're not going to get that just, but people who don't want to pay $9.99 and they want to watch a pay-per-view, do what I just said.
Yeah.
I was like, me personally, I like what NXT did with that Capitol Wrestling Center. The way they got that set up, I like that a little bit better than the Thunderdome.
Yeah, but it's pretty much the same thing as a Thunderdome. It's not as many people.
It's just a Thunderdome with some people actually around the ring behind the hockey glass,
Yeah, and
it is the flashiness. I don't know.
And the Capitol Wrestling Center is just a performance center.
It's just a facelift.
Yeah. It's a facelift.
And
nice LEDs.
I will say I do like the Capitol Wrestling Center's logo, because it's a throwback to the old Capitol Wrestling Corporation from what was the Jess McMahon?
One of the McMahons from like many, many McMahons ago.
I believe it was Jess McMahon and Toots Mondt. I believe that's who it was.
That's a nice fact. I know it was a McMahon. I don't know what's.
And that was like in the 40s. So, but it's the exact same logo. The Capitol Wrestling Center. It's the exact same logo that the old wrestling company had.
Nice little fact. I wasn't aware of that at all either.
Yep, that was Vince's granddad. That was his company. So
Yeah, I remember Triple H posting a video about that or talking about that a little bit. That was a nice like tribute thing they did.
yeah.
And then I know it's been mentioned a couple times on several different occasions with Cesaro. They've been talking about, reporting that his contract is ending after WrestleMania. But then I just saw today where he either signed one or verbally agreed to a new contract. Have y'all seen any details about that? Or has anything about that come up? Or
I saw details on it. Not details, but I saw he signed.
Yeah. But
will we ever know the truth? No, but pay attention to the product. You can tell if Cesaro didn't sign his contract, he would not have beaten Daniel Bryan tonight.
No, not at all.
He would have been buried instantly.
No, he would have probably ate a running knee and then got submitted right away because that's what WWE likes to do.
When Dean Ambrose announced he was not re-signing with WWE, look what they did.
Yeah.
He had a loss to Nia Jax, didn't he?
He lost to EC3. He wasn't even on WrestleMania. They benched him until his contract was over.
Yeah.
Or lose to everybody.
Had that one match with the
Shield. If Cesaro didn't sign, if Cesaro didn't sign, you wouldn't have seen Cesaro. You probably wouldn't even have seen him on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Let alone submit Daniel Bryan.
Exactly. So it looks like he did, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Hopefully, though, after, with him signing a new contract, supposedly, from, like y'all said, the looks of it, hopefully they're going to do a little bit more with him than what they have been.
Yeah.
And I noticed they showed a little spot where Shinsuke was watching the match from backstage, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know him and Shinsuke were tag partners at one time, but I don't really think there was any involvement between them two further than that.
They had a match on SmackDown, I think it was last week or the week before, where they were on opposing sides. Shinsuke now is a face. I think it was the week before the Royal Rumble, the Friday before the Royal Rumble. Shinsuke was on the face side, Cesaro was on the heel side.
That's right, yeah.
That was the last of that. But I would love to see them with a one-on-one match, give them a feud together.
Yeah.
They could do something really well, I think.
No, they really killed Shinsuke's whole push after that AJ feud, and now they're just starting to rebuild them. And that was how long ago? 2-3 years ago?
A long time ago.
Years ago.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing with Shinsuke is he's best as just a killer. He just needs to be the hard-hitting, king of strong style, which is that's what he made his name as.
Yeah.
Is just the tough, no nonsense. I'm here to fight, and that's it. And they've totally stripped that of him.
Hence why it's not working.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's you take this guy from New Japan and obviously it's a different style, like what you talked about, being a completely different style, more authentic sports-like style. And you bring him to WWE. Why not let him keep that? That keeps him very different than everybody else.
Right.
But you also put a spin on there where you give him some promos and he doesn't speak English properly, and it gets people excited, just like what they do with Asuka. What is the reason for not doing any of that? Where it doesn't make sense. They parade him around like he's a mascot almost.
Yeah.
Look what he did in NXT. He was great in NXT.
Oh, dude, he was killing it in NXT.
Yeah.
Well, he was largely unchanged.
Exactly.
There was a couple.
He kept his full name on the main roster. That's the thing WWE does.
Yeah, everybody either loses their first name or their last name.
You said about I saw you tweeted out about Karrion Kross.
Yeah, I said today, and the freaking tweet blew up for some reason. I guess it was true. If Karrion Kross comes to the main roster, either Raw or SmackDown, he'll probably just go by Cross. He won't be Karrion Kross.
I'm just waiting for the day that Damian Priest shows up as just Priest.
Yeah. Probably won't happen, but WWE has a weird way of spinning names, like Andrade Cien Almas is now Andrade.
Yeah.
And I remember a day when I was like, I don't like that name at all. It needs to be Andrade, Cien, Almas.
Yeah.
Now Andrade just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
So, why do y'all think that they, you get these guys, they're freaking red hot in NXT, right? They bring them up to the main roster. They do good for a couple weeks, and then they just get thrown off to the wayside. Why do y'all think that is? I don't understand. Like, I guess I know it's two different people running each show, but still, like, why would you call them up if you don't have anything for them?
I think it comes down to who's in charge of the shows, because Triple H is very much pro wrestling oriented.
Yeah.
So NXT tends to have a more pro wrestling feel and style. And when you get to the main roster, anybody can come up with any ideas they want to. They can plan out anything all day long. But unless McMahon says yes, it's not going to happen.
I think the best way to describe it, and to like anybody who's listening who doesn't understand the whole concept with Vince being in charge there and Triple H being in charge there, the best way to put it, and this is what I tell people all the time, it's pretend that your dad is the boss and that he brings you into the company to groom you to take his place one day. And what happens is you're the vice president or something, and you're trying to make all these changes to make the company bigger and better because you're more in touch with what's happening today opposed to what your dad is used to, where it's more of an old school and, it may not work.
Right.
And you're trying to get your dad to understand that the new way of the world is how things work. And your dad's like, no, like, big bag, big juiced up, sweaty guys.
Back in my day.
7 feet tall, red and yellow, brother, or this is the way of the
back
land.
In my day.
And it's not the way it is anymore. You can have Daniel Bryan as the world heavyweight champion. You can have
Rey
Mysterio as, anything you want. It's just a different. AJ Styles could be a world heavyweight champion.
You can have Orange Cassidy as a top draw. Ain't that right, Nick?
Anyway. Moving on.
Great gimmick, but come on, man. Orange Cassidy. But did you guys hear about the biggest release news from WWE that came out, I think, yesterday?
Yeah, I saw Steve Cutler.
Yeah.
Steve Cutler, Forgotten Sons. Big topic right now because did you hear about why he was released?
Yeah,
no, I didn't. I didn't hear details.
Like he was given the boot because of COVID.
So apparently I think he's dating Deonna Purrazzo in real life, and they got COVID back in January at a New Year's party, apparently with WWE talent. He got COVID, and apparently it pissed off Vince, and he released him.
Mm-hmm.
What about Drew McIntyre testing positive?
Yeah.
Coming back 2 weeks later.
Well, look at the whole list of people in the WWE that tested positive, not just the wrestlers, the backstage people, all these different people.
Now, think also about what Cutler went through. I mean, being a part of the Forgotten Sons at NXT, really, honestly, no pun intended, but being forgotten.
Yeah.
Finally bringing them to SmackDown, putting them in line, basically, to win the tag team titles. They were gonna be the tag team champions.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Jack Riker opens his mouth and ruins it for everybody. Tweets about all this Trump stuff and and it pissed a lot of fans off.
Yeah.
And the Forgotten Sons were literally forgotten forever. Now Riker, and they apparently Riker was going to get released. Like that was just not what they wanted. Like just whatever. Now he's on Raw with Elias, and this guy is over here trying to fight for his career because somebody else messed it up for him, and he gets released because he gets COVID. You know how many people in the world got COVID?
I think they're just they're just looking for an excuse to put on paper to release him. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what that seems like.
I don't want to say the wrong thing here or anything, but do you think it could be because his girlfriend is champion for an opposing company?
Yeah,
that could be part of it.
Petty stuff from WWE.
That could be part of it.
Britt Baker, though, she's one of the top women in the company right now, but I know they're not going to punish
she's not
Adam
a
Cole
champion.
because he's the top guy on NXT, more or less.
Right. But
And-
she's not a champion.
But here's the thing: Adam Cole's in the same category as Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. Adam Cole's kind of untouchable at the moment.
So it's they pick and choose there, and it's all politics.
And there's a long history in the WWE of treating, I guess, outsiders or something considered outside very, very poorly.
Cutler was like the ultimate superstar because like his character being like the forgotten son, a former military, veteran. He is a military veteran in real life.
Yeah.
He served. So like this is an authentic character where like it will get over regardless of a face or a heel. Like this could have worked so well, and they just threw it away. And like they're missing tag teams right now, so bad move on.
I don't know why they didn't keep Cutler and still at least keep him with Blake and make them a run for the tag titles.
I think it's only a matter of time before Blake goes.
Oh yeah, he's been with the company for a minute. Since back when him and Murphy were in NXT.
Unless they put him back with Murphy, because where's Murphy?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think about it. They ain't done nothing with Murphy lately.
Nope.
He got Rey Mysterio's daughter and he left.
Do you blame him?
I don't know. I feel like
despite like the 20-year age gap in between there.
Yeah, it's at least it's at least that much.
He's 19, he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like when Paul Heyman was running Raw, right? You've seen just so many guys come up out of nowhere, getting pushed and getting shown. Cedric Alexander and Apollo Crews. They weren't doing anything, weren't even being shown on TV, really. Paul Heyman starts running it. All these guys come up. Then they get rid of him. And who is it? Bruce Pritchard. He comes on and runs and has been running it since.
Bruce Pritchard.
And then they just kind of fell back off in a way, except for really just Cedric Alexander, because Apollo Crews, I feel like after this rivalry, he's going to be back sitting on the sidelines.
Probably.
I hope not.
I hope not either, but I got a feeling that's what it's going to be.
Talking smack has been his saving grace, and those promos with Paul Heyman. This guy could be a top heel if they do it right.
Especially because Paul is so good at bringing out the best in people.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is so good at taking somebody that people probably overlook and making them pay attention.
Yep.
I know.
He could be like a Cesaro if you put like imagine you put Heyman with him and he goes after the Intercontinental Championship. Imagine like the series you have between Big E and Apollo, like passing the title back and forth. Like doesn't matter who has it.
And actually, one thing that I actually just thought of with this conversation, Heyman could even make a group of guys like that and run that whole group.
Yep.
I know, like, for a while, like, they were teasing an alliance, sorts between Apollo Crews, Heyman, and Roman Reigns, and I didn't see any mention of it this week, really.
I wish they would have stuck with it. That could have been awesome.
But here's the thing: how do we know that's still not happening?
True.
Maybe he's learning from them, and then we're gonna see a heel turn, and that's when it comes out where it's like Paul Heyman's like, you finally did, you pulled the trigger, you did what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Like you listened.
Yeah.
Speaking of possible alliances too, like one that I've been really looking at on AEW is Hangman and Matt Hardy too. Like where could that even possibly lead to?
When Matt Hardy debuted in AEW, I like jumped for joy because I was like, yes, he's out of WWE, like he's gonna be able to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Broken Matt Hardy, Vanguard 1 comes down, with the drone, and I think that was the last time I even thought about Matt Hardy in AEW.
The whole teleporting thing.
When he started teleporting, I turned off my TV. I'm not even joking. I turned it off and I just walked away.
He flip-flopped more than Big Show did heel turns.
Yeah, he has. He's changed gimmicks like 6 times in a year.
And and I love Matt Hardy. My favorite Matt Hardy was version 1 when he was the Cruiserweight champion. Like, like he did all this stuff and like it was just all great. That can it work today? Yeah. No. I think it can. As a heel, like a different version of a heel.
I was gonna say if he'd modified it,
if you modified it like a modern day of that, it could possibly work. Not what he's doing.
Now they're calling him.
I'd rather not see him because I feel like it's ruining him.
Now they're calling him Big Money Matt.
It's just so crazy because a guy who has such a good mind for wrestling.
Yep.
It's maddening.
Yeah.
At this point, I'd rather see him behind the scenes. Like what he was doing in WWE before they brought him back that last run with the Hardys.
Shit.
Just let him be a producer and let him because I don't know what's going to work on TV for him.
Honestly, I don't think there's anything really left for him to accomplish.
He's not going to win the AEW World Heavyweight title like you said he was going to do.
No. I don't see him ever winning a tag title in AEW.
No.
I
don't think he'll ever win another tag team title without Jeff.
No, I don't see that ever happening.
I don't see Jeff leaving WWE no time soon.
Unless he fails a drug
test. From what we saw at the Royal Rumble, this guy was on a path to success. Like the whole thing with Sheamus and the drug storyline, I thought that was going to propel him to like maybe a Universal title shot, like put him against Roman, something. No, he was number 5 in the Royal Rumble, was in there for like 3 minutes and got eliminated first. This guy just dropped off. He got smacked over the back too many times with Elias's guitar, and he's like, to me, is like dead, like dead and buried.
Because it looked like too, like during that match, was it that bar fight or whatever they had between Sheamus and Hardy?
Yeah.
It looked like from it they're gonna let him be his Willow character. And
a lot of people were hoping for that.
And I have not seen anything of that since.
If you want to rejuvenate Jeff Hardy, you bring back the Willow character and you have him face The Fiend at WrestleMania.
Or does him go on drugs again? You know that? He was doing great during that time, too.
That's true. TNA did. Hey, he was the World Heavyweight Champion in TNA at that time, so.
Yeah,
he also ruined how many pay-per-views?
Yeah, poor Sting.
Right? Yeah, well, he also ruined the match with Tetsuya Naito and New Japan on a pay-per-view during that same time.
Yeah, I thought overall throughout the week, I thought there was a lot of good shows, like a lot of good matches that came on this week. With the exception of Impact, I don't ever really see much anything good on there. It's hard to watch. They're getting better though, but what do y'all think was the best match y'all saw this week?
I have 2 in mind.
And I say I'd originally picked the street fight that Alex Hammerstone and Mads Kruger had on MLW this week, because that was like the actual like back alley street fights you used to see in like the 90s.
Right.
Yeah, they had one of those old Attitude or Nitro style, street fights. But it wasn't very long. And I know they were just doing it to continue their story. But after seeing that Daniel Bryan and Cesaro match this evening, I'm going to have to go with that one.
Yeah. Oh, that was probably one of the best matches I've seen on SmackDown. Is for the past couple weeks, they had a match, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Bryan and Cesaro had a match. Then they had one this week. Those are the 2 best matches I've seen in a while.
I had one match in mind, and then tonight's match, like we just discussed, Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. That was my next choice. I think though, like overall, it might have been Edge and Randy Orton from Raw.
Yeah,
like that was my first pick because like the best wrestling match of all time, whoever that was marketed as at Backlash. Now we got it on Raw. Excellent match. We had a clean finish. We had the whole thing with Alexa Bliss, like whatever she was doing, possessed. You know, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be my choice to talk about on your show. And then we have the match with Daniel Bryan and Cesaro tonight, and I'm like, well, damn, what a way to end the week.
Yeah.
So like both of those matches were probably the best matches I saw all week.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people are probably saying like, oh, like, you know, all the matches we just said are all, you know, crap compared to what AEW put in their main event. Was it really that great of a match? Like, or is it just like their 6-man match that they had on AEW? You know, sorry, not sorry, but that was kind of like every other match that we've seen. It wasn't anything different than what we normally see from those guys.
I think what happens a lot of time, people conflate a moment that might happen around a match with the match.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the match was nothing special, but the moment after, Kenta coming out and attacking Mox. Right.
Yeah. That's what everybody was talking about after. They weren't talking about the match. They're talking about Kenta.
No. Exactly.
Or how damn good Rey Fenix is.
Rey Fenix freaking, like, yeah, he really showed off during that match. Like, he did great during that match.
I want to see him hold the TNT title. I want to see him hold the TNT title or Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
Because those two need to shine, like, big time.
Yeah, Sammy's such a great heel and wrestler.
He can be a top babyface if you put him in the position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you allowed it to organically grow, where like the old school ways, you let the heel get the most heat they can possibly get. You just let them get red hot where everybody just absolutely hates them. But then they do one thing that makes everybody's mind change, and then they love them. If Sammy could do that, that would be amazing.
I almost feel like that's the way they're going with Sammy.
And it could be.
Like this whole thing.
Was, and then they just pulled it back a little bit. Like,
yeah,
there was a time where like he was facing Matt Hardy, and Matt Hardy like was heel for a second, and then he was a face, and then it just, I don't know what happened.
Well, attempted murder on Matt Hardy doesn't help the situation.
You know, Sammy Guevara reminds me of, and I always like to like do comparisons to people. Like I always find myself doing that.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of Randy Orton, and it reminds me of the situation back in 2004 when Randy Orton gained too much success for Evolution, and they turned on him. And I can definitely see that happening with Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle. Like Sammy, gains momentum, maybe picks up the TNT title from Darby Allin, turns face, starts getting bigger opportunities, and then Jericho kind of, Judas affects him out of the group.
Right.
As I feel,
and then we get Sammy versus Jericho, and now Sammy is an elevated top main event star.
And I feel like I know he's having a lot of heat now with MJF, and I feel like Jericho is going to have a role in that, not only because they're all in Inner Circle, but that's because now that's Jericho's tag partner.
Right.
Which before it was Sammy Guevara. They were Les Sex Gods or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's kind of taking his place as Jericho's, best friend, best buddy.
But yeah, Jericho always treated him like, Sammy's little brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now MJF has taken that spot. So of course Sammy's going to be pissed. And that, like you said, that opens up an opportunity for Sammy to start getting some good wins.
Yeah.
And then build, like you said.
All right, I feel like that's what's gonna happen is he's gonna make his face turn during this little thing with MJF, and that's when he's gonna start getting more wins and
it's gonna be a moment, like you said, Jericho takes him out, or Sammy gets pushed to the point where he feels he's got to defend himself against the Inner Circle, something.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be like the thumbs down with Triple H taking out Orton, or the thumbs down when Batista was like, sorry guys, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of those type of moments. And those, I think, are like the moments that we like, I don't know, we value those moments, and they're long gone.
Yeah.
It has been a very long time.
like that act, like that angst, and it's like you're excited.
I think the closest thing we've gotten recently, I know it might be a bit of a stretch, but it's like Evil betraying Naito.
Yeah, but then again, that was like a big heel moment, you know? Like,
Right.
I'm talking about, and that is probably the closest thing we've had to that.
Yeah.
But like if you're talking about, like I'm talking about like a pop moment where like,
right, you're doing the opposite.
Like the opposite, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Batista turns face, or like you know, something like that. It's just been a long time. I think we're gonna get it with AEW and you know, Guevara and Jericho.
Yeah.
But and also, if you think about it too, AEW really needs to start like executing, like making stars. Like they just have everybody bundled and they're just doing the same thing since they started. Like
everybody blends together. You have all these people, and I'm not just saying that because of their wrestling, but even if you were to put them in a lineup, they all look alike too.
I was on a like a wrestling podcast super panel to discuss everything that happened in 2020 in wrestling in general. And I was on there was five of us on the panel, and all different people that love different companies, you know, WWE, AEW, whatever, Impact. And we were all talking about the top moments of each company. Top moments in WWE. Oh, that was people Backlash. You know, Edge and Randy Orton. There's a lot of people in this world, man. I think there's like 7 billion people. So someone's gotta pick it.
Every once in a while, Impact does do something good. So
yeah. And then when we were discussing like WWE, like you can pinpoint exactly when that match happened. Oh, that was Backlash. Randy Orton here. Oh, that was, you know, Elimination Chamber, or that was this. When we're talking about AEW, no one on this panel, including myself, could really say their favorite. You could say their favorite. We said our favorite matches from AEW, but we don't remember when they happened.
Right.
At what pay-per-view? Was it on Dynamite? How long ago was it? Because it all just, like you said, it all just blends together, and there's no significant moments. Like Sting coming back was probably the most significant moment they had in a long time. And it wasn't even on a pay-per-view. Yeah.
The one match that I remember from AEW, and I loved it, was Cody and Dustin from Double or Nothing.
That was probably my favorite match.
That's the only one that I can name exactly. And
because that was Double or Nothing. Like when they first started.
I think that was before. That was even before AEW.
It was the first AEW event, and it was before the TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was what? October.
It was April 2019, I believe.
Yeah, it was April because the show started in October. For me, like for this week, I was going a direction with that 6-man tag for best match this week. But another one I thought came really close with it, though, if not better, was the tag team match on NXT between Thatcher and Ciampa in the Undisputed Era, Cole and Strong. I thought that was another good match.
That was a phenomenal match.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch that match because I kind of got bored with NXT after Edge went off, and I just kind of zoned out.
That was a real wrestling match. I wish they would bring Ciampa up to like Raw or SmackDown and have him have the run he had when he was holding Goldie.
Well, the only thing with that is, aside from him saying he has nearly no interest in going to the main roster.
Yeah,
he wants to stay on NXT, but I feel like if he goes to the main roster, he's gonna get lost in the shuffle, and
he'll be on 205 Live in a week.
Yeah, more or less.
And that's not a knock on him. That's WWE not paying attention.
Yeah.
Ciampa's character, kind of like that sort of loose cannon kind of psycho type guy, is perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect, and he does it so well. You look at him, you think, okay, this guy might be a little off.
Let me ask you a question. If there was a WWE pay-per-view and the headlining match was the WWE Championship match between Tommaso Ciampa challenging Randy Orton, You're gonna tell me that's not gonna get buys?
Oh
no, I'm gonna watch that. That's gonna get a lot of buzz.
The psychology alone in that match would be so far ahead and way beyond what anybody else does right now. It's insane.
What about a WrestleMania match between Tommaso Ciampa and Triple H?
That would be great too.
Yeah.
This guy can do it. The problem is WWE booking.
Yeah. They're not gonna let him do it.
Because he's Triple H's guy.
Yeah.
He's Triple H's guy. Triple H compares. He said so many times. He compares Ciampa to himself, and he compares Gargano to Shawn Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
Those are their guys.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ciampa, though, he's gonna pretty much stay like Johnny Gargano is now, and more or less be a face of NXT.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just
honestly. I would love to see Gargano on like SmackDown with Candice LeRae and the whole thing they're doing with the Way. Move it over to SmackDown. It would do so well. Problem is, there's so many people.
Yeah.
There's so many people. And like, look how great it worked out for Finn Balor. Like, they moved him to NXT. Like, you're saying it's the third brand, but then you say you moved them down or back. Like the term
he gave that show a major boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said for a long time before Cesaro was anywhere he is now, I said, why not put Cesaro back over there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what would happen? So that would be he'd be the main guy.
Yeah.
Well, and you remember in the early years of NXT when Cesaro was already on Raw, but he came back and had that feud with Sami Zayn, and that's what helped get NXT over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's a lot of talent that could benefit from going back to NXT. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind Shinsuke going back over there.
No, not at all.
I look how Tyler Breeze and Fandango, they benefited in a sense from going back to NXT.
Well, and Tyler Breeze gets to say one thing that nobody else in WWE right now gets to say, and is that he had a pay-per-view match with Jushin Liger.
Almost everybody in WWE, you can't say it against.
Yeah.
So.
And it was a good match. I thought it could have been longer, but it was good.
That was the opening match, right? I think it was for the.
Yeah, I think they wrestled like 9 minutes, 10 minutes, and it was Takeover, the first Takeover New York.
Yeah. So, and you know what's so great about NXT, like, and we even saw it tonight. Like, you don't have to have a long match, but as long as you give a good match, that's all the fans want. Give them quality. It's not about the quantity; it's about quality.
And that's one of my issues with AEW. You turn on AEW, every match is a 15, 20-minute back and forth. We got to trade every big move we have, all that.
Flips here, flips there, everyone's flipping.
Yeah, somebody's doing a double gainer over the top rope, and there's literally like just bodies flying everywhere at all times.
So, if there was like one person or team, a lot of people got called up to the main roster from NXT. If there was one person or team, that fell off to the wayside after their call up, there was one that you could, still have pushed today and see get a big push, who would it be?
EC3.
First one is Juice Robinson.
Oh, they dropped the ball hard on him.
He was in NXT?
Yeah.
NXT. And he actually he wrestled Kevin Owens in his debut.
Mm-hmm.
How do I not remember that?
On NXT. My second choice would be Chad Gable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy's money. The guy's money. He is, and I've been on quote. I've been on quote saying this plenty of times. He is Daniel Bryan, Chris Benoit, and Kurt Angle all mixed into one. The guy can be just like those guys. They don't.
You know who Chad Gable reminds me of that he could kind of be this generation's version of is kind of like a Chris Candido.
Yeah. That's another. Yeah.
A guy that can wrestle his ass off and face anybody and make anybody look great. Doesn't necessarily have to win every match because everybody's still going to love him.
You're going to tell me right now if you turn Chad Gable heel, right, and you put him in a program with Rey Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship, you're not going to get Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero vibes. You're not going to think that's a big match.
Easily
get that.
Chad Gable can do it. The problem is that his promo skills aren't that great, and that's why he's not there. Same thing with Cesaro. It's the full presentation, and you know, we're in an era now of wrestling where you don't need to have the best promo skills because there's social media and you can go tweet your ass off all day long and get yourself over.
Look at Brock Lesnar. He doesn't tweet and he doesn't have any promo skills, but he still gets over.
Well, I mean, Brock Lesnar. The guy is
Brock Lesnar is a unique. Is an anomaly in that because Brock Lesnar is a legit badass. We all know that in real life he could wreck anybody he wanted to at any time.
Yes.
So people will pay money to watch someone like that.
He's the box office attraction. He is he's the John Cena, The Rock, The Undertaker.
Like, have any of y'all ever seen Brock Lesnar live?
Yes.
I unfortunately no, I have not in person. But
all right,
where did you see him at?
It was in South Florida where I used to live. It was in 2003. I went to a house show, and he wrestled. I think it was him and Big Show versus Kurt Angle, and I think it was a triple threat match. It was in the summer of 2003.
Yeah.
So it was Big Show versus Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was the WWE champion at the time versus Brock Lesnar. And they were doing the triple threat, which I think actually happened at Vengeance that year for the title. Or actually, no. When it might have been around that time. But it was a triple threat between those guys. And they were like prepping for the pay-per-views.
Yeah, they were working a house show with the match.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was the three of them. And I remember I sat front row with my sister and my dad. And it was a house show. So the tickets were like $25, I think, $30. And A-Train came out. I don't know if you guys remember A-Train.
I remember A-Train.
I mean, or should I say Ice-T or whatever he was.
Prince Albert.
Sweet Tea, Tensai, whatever.
Yeah, A-Train, Giant Bernard.
Albert. He came out and threw this and threw the stairs, and it actually hit our guardrail and like moved us back. Yeah. My sister's not a wrestling fan, but if you ask her about wrestling, that's the one thing she remembers.
Well,
the big, hairy, sweaty guy threw stairs at us.
Well, I was actually in the Richmond Coliseum in '98 when Mick Foley and Terry Funk had a hardcore match. No blood, surprisingly, but
as you know.
The first time, I think it was the only time I've seen Brock Lesnar. First and only time I've seen Brock Lesnar was in the Richmond Coliseum. I don't think he had a match on, but all I remember was him putting Mark Henry through the barricade. Like he was somehow involved with Mark Henry and put him through a barricade. I don't remember what the reason was behind that.
Well, that had to have been like what, 03, 04, something like that.
I think I remember that. I think that was on Raw.
It was on a Raw, yeah, because I was there. I didn't start. I think when I started going to events was after 2012 because I got that military discount, so I started using that to go.
Right.
Let me tell you, I think I remember exactly when that was, and I think that was the build. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I tend to be a WWE encyclopedia here. It might be the build to Brock Lesnar versus Big Show at the Royal Rumble. And they put him in line against Mark Henry on Raw, and he destroyed him. And he gave him like an F5 out of the ring, and he flopped like a fish, put him through the barricade. So it might have been that one.
I think it might have been.
They were building him towards Big Show for the WWE title at the Royal Rumble. I think it was 14 or 15.
Was this around the time he did like that Beast in the East special and stuff?
No, it was before that.
It might have been right. Yeah, it might have been right around there.
When they did the special Japan show.
He was the WWE champion. Mm-hmm. I know that.
Yeah.
And he wrestled. It might have even been because I think 15 was the year he wrestled Seth and Cena. So it might have been 14, 13. I don't know, something like that.
It had to have been 13. It had to have been 13.
When did CM Punk wrestle Rock? That was 12, right?
That was 11, wasn't
I
it?
think it was 11.
That was 11 or 12. One of the
Yeah.
two. There must have been 13.
I think it was the year was 2013, I believe.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was after I came out of basic and finished all my training and everything, and came back home. So I think that's when it was. I know, like earlier, I was asking about the NXT call-ups and all. One thing I do want to say something about that real quick too. One team that I wish that they would have kept and actually did something with, the Ascension.
Mm-hmm.
That
would have been nice.
that's one team. Like ever since I seen them in NXT, I was an instant fan of them.
Yeah. Well, they decided to roll the Road Warriors, the Powers of Pain, and Demolition all into one, and that was what the Ascension was when they brought them up.
Was there a more dominant NXT champion like in history?
Weren't they champions for over a year?
Yeah, they were like undefeated.
Yeah. And they were wrecking everybody.
Then they called them to the main roster, had them undefeated for about a month or two, or if that, and then that was it.
Yeah, then they were buried by DX and all that. And
The problem with their characters, it wasn't their characters. They were great characters. The problem is pro wrestling just was so modern at the time, and with the internet and everything, it's kind of like how do you get a team with face paint and they pretend they're from some other place over and make people think it's real.
Yeah, coming out wearing shoulder pads and you know, all that.
You know, if you have a team like the Authors of Pain, where like they're big badasses and they come out and whoop you, that's believable. But you have the Ascension, face paint, and they're from wherever they're from. It's like,
what would they bill them as? They're from the wasteland or something?
Yeah,
like
they were from like a different place and all this stuff.
Yeah,
and they're
supposed to be otherworldly.
Yeah, it doesn't get over. It doesn't work. But then again, you have like a Fiend character or Bray Wyatt, which people know is fake, but it's just too close to a horror movie where the Ascension wasn't.
Yeah,
right.
It was a classic wrestling heel, like you said, like LOD and Demolition and other, like at the time was believable, but with social media it ruined it. Kayfabe was dead.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Fiend, Nick, when do you think the Fiend's coming back?
Hopefully never. Because when you cremate somebody on live TV, that about does it, doesn't it?
Now, I thought for sure he was going to come back at the Royal Rumble. Now I was almost certain that's when he was.
Someone asked me tonight while I was tweeting about SmackDown, like, "Oh, who's Randy going to face at WrestleMania?" I said Alexa Bliss.
Well, my first thing I want to say is I have to thank Rhea Ripley profusely for tossing out Alexa Bliss and saving us all from whatever that was going to be.
Listen, let me tell you, I'm usually not a fan of those type of gimmicks.
Yeah,
she does it so well, man. I get like I get creeped out. I'm like, this is not like, it's acting, but it's like this is like way above like what they probably asked her to do. Like she is really good at doing that.
Like other than when she first brought that playground set on the Raw, this past Monday was probably the only other time I was like, what the fuck just happened?
The only problem that they're gonna have with that is that when we do go back to live shows, she can't just switch characters.
No.
Those are taped segments. Like you're not gonna have that when there's people sitting in the audience. What you gonna like change or have an out like?
So when you're watching it on the Thunderdome, right?
Yeah.
How does it does it show the same way on the Thunderdome or does it
same thing? The same thing. The only difference is when you're watching Raw or SmackDown, you don't get the commercial breaks. So they wrestle throughout the commercial breaks with no commentary.
Gotcha. Okay. Same thing pretty much.
So nothing stops.
Okay.
There's no commentary during the commercial breaks. And it's just like, it's weird because you hear the sounds of the fans in the Thunderdome and there's no commentary. You're just watching wrestling.
Which sometimes is nice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Freaking Instagram.
Back to what you were saying about the Fiend coming back.
Yeah.
I think he's going to return at WrestleMania.
You think they're
That's
going
the
to
only
hold
thing
him
that
off? You think they're going to hold him off all the way till WrestleMania?
I think we're going to see a new version of the Fiend now that he's been put on fire, and all the things that happened to him. This guy's been through a lot, man.
Well,
He's had a rough
Hell in a
life.
Cell, well, look, at Hell in a Cell, he was bludgeoned to death with a toolbox.
Yeah, he got 600 curb stomps.
Wasn't he drowned in the swamp?
He was drowned in the swamp by Braun Strowman.
Yeah, and then he was cremated on live TV. And if he comes back in any capacity, I might just have to quit wrestling altogether.
Look, he just wants to, he's had a hard life. He just wants to wrestle. That's all he wants to do.
Let me tell you, if he comes back and as the Fiend, but a more like horrific version where like half of his mask is burned and it's like almost like a Kane-esque character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he comes back sadistic. Because I said back when he was doing the whole thing with Randy, like you want to get him over as the biggest like evil person in WWE. Well, you got to put him against the most evil, sadistic person in WWE, and that's Randy Orton.
Yeah.
If the Fiend comes back from what he went through, he is the most sadistic person in WWE today. So that's what they were going for. And he's going to come back, and he's going to come back more sadistic and evil as ever. Maybe with a different, look. Maybe his dreads are gone because he was balding pretty bad. There's other things you can do to him to make him like scary.
Right.
You know what somebody told me today? No, we was over here playing this like 2K20, and all this greatness, we were playing 2K.
I know what you're talking about.
Wait, you mean 220? That's how it felt like playing.
He's talking about a comment I made the other night.
That game had more glitches than Jericho's 2012 return.
Yeah.
Somebody told me today that I'm not going to say any names, but Nick knows who I'm talking about. I run this online league for 2K20, and I got a bunch of us in it. But somebody made the comment today that they want to see the Fiend come back with face paint. I was like, no, there's no way you can go from having this. There's no way it would do that character justice at all. So you can't go from having this badass mask to coming back with face paint. You're downgrading at that point. It's like
face paint.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, no face paint.
If you want to bring the Fiend back with no mask, but make him look like he was burned, so maybe put like black ash kind of on his face, that could possibly work.
But then it's going to wear off through the match.
The whole point is kind of like what happened to Kane. Like there's a mask on for a reason.
Yeah.
Well,
now he's been burned alive. I mean, he should keep a mask on.
Yeah.
Well, what if he did this? You talking about making him look more evil, like sadistic, and what if they could bring him back this way? They could have him like bandaged up, or have some form of his mask, and maybe parts that are gone of the mask, you see bandages, or you see something to indicate that he's damaged from what happened.
Here's the problem with that: Randy Orton was put on fire as well, like 2 or 3 weeks ago by Alexa Bliss, had a fireball in the face.
Yeah, he did.
And he looked perfect to me at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, he did catch a Hadouken to the face. I forgot about that.
No band. He was in a mask for like 1 week,
and he had like when he came back, his face was like slightly pink, and
yeah. Then he was in perfect condition, new haircut and all. So,
and speaking of, you're talking about Randy
Rumble.
Or you're talking about Randy Orton being sadistic. Why hasn't he punted 4'10" Alexa Bliss over the railing yet?
Imagine that happens, and he punts her to the point where the Fiend comes out of her, and that's when he returns. Because You look at all those things that I know it sounds freaking.
I get what you're saying.
You have those little segments where she's like, "Let me in," and it's the Fiend's voice, where like he's possessed in her. Imagine he kicks her so hard he appears.
Well, like
he's Alexa Bliss again.
The way you said it though just gave me a great visual. Just Orton kicks her, then like she just like rips apart, and here's the Fiend.
Boom.
Yeah, like she literally just like explodes into the Fiend.
Listen, there's no live crowd. She can explode. He was gonna.
Well, that's true. There's no live crowd. They could do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know, he could turn into Biker Doink. You know.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible now with COVID season coming around. You know, and there's no live crowds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Matt Hardy's teleported. We've had. You know, we've had all kind of stuff happen.
Hey, Nick, we're still waiting for that Magma and Brimstone match.
Oh, yeah, that was my idea after the whole thing is that now that Alexa's trying to feud with Orton, they just should have a match with the ring surrounded by lava, and it's to the finish, whoever.
I mean, like we just said, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Well,
next thing we're going to have a castle and a moat, and you know. And
listen, Raymond James Stadium for WrestleMania. There's a pirate ship there. You can do some stuff with that.
I know that worries me. Diving board somewhere.
I know we've been at this for a while.
See Kevin Owens do something off it like he's promised.
There was one match. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was on Raw. They were talking about Kevin Owens running up and jumping off. It was one of the Raw sets.
Oh, when he did his little backflip off the wall.
Yeah. Do y'all remember what match that was?
I don't remember.
It was a tag team match, I think, and it was against Samoa Joe and somebody else.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, somebody I just saw that on a post the other day. Somebody reminded me of it. I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot all about that."
Hey, don't underestimate us fat boys. We can do some stuff now.
As I know we've been going at this for a while, guys. So I'm gonna try and wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing this for a little over an hour now.
Hey, it's been a fun talk, though.
Do what?
But it's been a fun talk.
Oh, yeah, it definitely has.
I always find myself in a position when I'm talking wrestling with people. They're like, "Oh, we'll keep it like 15 to 30 minutes," and it's 2 hours later. You
know, it's funny because that's what we had said when we before we did this. Me and Nick said we're going to keep it at about 45 minutes or so. And what are we at now?
We're actually coming up on 2 hours.
Good God! Well, a fun time editing this.
You didn't have a whole lot to do. It's been fairly good. So.
Oh yeah, but like from all the wrestling we saw this week, there was a lot of spots and some botches this week, right? One of the spots that I saw this week, the top spots that stood out to me, it was on AEW, and that was that rolling cutter by Phoenix.
Yeah,
y'all remember? Y'all see that?
Yeah,
I think. Trying to remember where he was. I think he was on the apron. He like jumps into the ring, rolls and hits a backwards cutter on Hager or Anderson won.
I thought it was Anderson.
That's what I think.
I don't remember.
It was one of them two. But then, the botch comes. My botch for the week comes right after that match, and I don't know if it was just me or if y'all seen what I'm talking about, but that GTS. That Kenta hit on Moxley, I thought that, in my opinion, looked a little botched.
Yeah. I think with that, it was just more or less because Moxley is a lot taller than Kenta.
Yeah.
They just didn't adjust for Kenta bringing his knee up and Mox landing. Because you could tell Mox was kind of he almost looked surprised that he landed before he got hit.
Yeah.
The sell was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The sell was very Dwayne Johnson-esque.
Oh yeah, he sold it like money, but you could tell there was like a split second they were like looking at each other like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joey, what was your if you had to pick a spot and a botch that stood out from this week, or if there was any at all, what would you pick?
It's probably the one that we just said with Kenta and Moxley, just because like that was supposed to be a very significant moment of the show, and like to the future of what's going to be happening with that whole AEW Impact story, or now involving New Japan.
Yeah.
So that kind of was, that was it for me. But then, like what you said at the beginning of your show, like Bianca Belair's feet touching the ground, like is that a bigger botch?
Yeah. But like my question is though too, I said since I won't watch in the Rumble, and I've heard different people mention this, did she go over the top rope or did she go through the middle?
I could have swore she went over the top rope. But then again, you have to think too, like seeing a picture like that and then watching it live, she may have not touched the floor, but the picture looks like she did.
Yeah.
Because I watched it live and I don't remember that happening.
Same for me.
And I don't even remember if they both went over the top or one went through the middle and one. I don't remember how they got to that point.
Yeah.
But from what I saw, it looked like both had 1 foot touch and then they got back in.
Yes, that's what I saw too.
Yeah.
And I think they both went over the top, like to make it seem like, oh, one of them's going over.
Yeah.
And they just her feet could have been dangling, and it looks like in a picture that they touched.
Well, and also she's wearing black boots and it's a black mat,
Yeah.
That's true too.
So if you're asking me, that's probably the biggest botch if it actually did happen. But other than that, Kenta and Mox.
Yeah.
Nick, what about you, man?
Well, my spot, I don't know if this really counts as a spot, but I don't know if you saw this or not either, but the promo that Brian Johnson cut on Ring of Honor this week, that fired up heel promo he cut was just fantastic.
I didn't catch it, unfortunately.
About how, he was talking about Danhausen, how that hashtag Danhausen thing got him a contract, and how he lost to Danhausen at Final Battle.
Yeah.
I did see the Danhausen stuff on Twitter. I did see that.
But he just cut a completely scathing heel promo talk. He basically said, how did he word it, Marcus? He said the fat asses sitting on their parents' couch started a hashtag and got this guy a job. And, he was just
basically.
And he was just going off, about how I've spent my entire life doing this. And I finally get somewhere where I can get some recognition. And this guy gets
a job from a freaking hashtag.
Yeah.
Listen, if you look back to see like Danhausen, I think beginning of 2020, right when the pandemic hit, Busted Open. I don't know if you guys listen to that show. It's the show Dave LaGreca does with Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer and Mark Henry.
Yeah.
They put out a tweet, and they do a segment like to get yourself over, and a lot of people they had like, tag your favorite up and coming wrestler, and we'll have him on the show and get himself over. And Danhausen went on there. And since then has been like, look where he is now.
Right.
So a hashtag does work.
Yeah. It can. Yeah. I'm not a fan. I don't get it, but I don't have to like everything. I don't have to get it. If it's not for me, then I'm on to the next thing, and I'm done with it.
You're a very rare wrestling fan.
What's that?
You are a very rare wrestling fan.
Yeah. Marcus has found that out since we started doing this.
Yeah.
You don't complain like the rest of the Twitter warriors. I don't like it. It sucks.
I might fuss about it on here, but then once I'm done, I don't bring it up. I'm just on to the next.
It's a show, and at the end of the day, it's a show, and it's
that's it.
It's
entertaining. You don't have to like everything.
No.
What was your botch from the week, Nick? What did you think?
I mean, I was mostly in agreement with y'all on the Kenta thing. I've heard other people say actually that there was other angles that people took pictures of where it actually looked like it was supposed to. I haven't seen those, so I don't know.
Either.
Kind of like Karate Man and that supposed different version of the video.
On YouTube.
Yeah. So
it was funny that you brought up Busted Open and Mark Henry, because that was something else I meant to ask. And I totally forgot in his bags. I'm looking at the outline and totally slipped my mind. the whole thing with Ryback and Mark Henry, and that whole slander lawsuit Mark Henry that Ryback wants to take on Henry. What's y'all's take on that?
Oh man,
From what we've heard so far.
I interviewed Ryback a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I asked him, and I asked him a lot about WWE days and things like that, and he actually mentioned Mark Henry in a positive way. This was before everything happened with Mark Henry.
Yeah.
And he liked Mark. Like he wasn't like bitter as to what people are seeing today. It was more of like he's happy he had his time there. There's people in the company he doesn't like, and he makes it very vocal. But he focuses on getting back in the ring and hopefully getting to AEW or somewhere. But from what they said that he said, I don't know if that's necessarily true or if it was meant the way that he said it. I don't think that Ryback is a bad guy. He's the big guy. He's not the bad guy. That's Razor Ramon's thing. I think it got taken out of context and out of hand at this point. Mark Henry destroying him on Busted Open, I don't think was necessary. Could have just called him up and handled it like grown men. Instead, he used it for ratings on a show.
Yeah, which is very surprising for someone like Mark Henry to do.
Yeah, like if you have a problem with somebody, don't air it out on a radio station.
Yeah,
call them up. You're professionals.
Yeah, especially considering where Mark came from, where if you didn't take it up with the person you had a problem with and you did something like he did, that was a good way to get you, blackballed, kicked out, whatever.
Yeah.
As I know, like Ryback had even said on another article I read that he felt like WWE had put Mark Henry up to that.
Yeah.
It could be also because, right when it was around the time I did the interview with him.
Yeah, it was
a lot of things started coming up that Ryback WWE this, that, this, that, the other thing.
Well, it was about a week after that. That's when all that came up, I think, when you did that episode with him. It's like a week later, everything starts coming up.
And I was praying to God that it wasn't from something that he said on the show. Because I was like, wait, where did it come from? Because nobody really talked about Ryback before.
Yeah.
And I was down that road before too. I got a little worried one time.
And it just happened like that. And I think at this point, Ryback, the only way he can defend himself is through lawsuits because and he even talked about it on my show. He won his lawsuit against WWE to have his name and have his trademarks. They were trying to tell him if you don't sign, if you sign this new contract, you're going to become WWE champion. And he said no. Then they said, okay, well now if you sign, you're going to get the US title. So they messed with him a lot. And the only way he can defend himself against Vince McMahon or a $1 billion company is through a lawsuit.
Right.
Yeah.
But ultimately what he wants is just to do what he loves to do and just, do it like how everybody else does it. I don't know why this guy gets so many attacks. Yeah. Is he very vocal? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Do I think that he's asking for a lot of the stuff that he gets? Yes. But it goes to a limit,
It's like that whole time in Ryback, even since he debuted on SmackDown, he was an instant attraction for me. Then having him in that program with Cena, where it looked like he was going to win the title, and they pulled that out from under him.
He should have.
I totally thought
there was one point he was the top babyface in the company. There was one point he was the top babyface in the company. One point he was the top heel in the company.
Yeah.
When he was running those matches with Cena, he was getting a bigger reaction than Cena was.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
And then that look he had, when he would come out with the leather vest and the Scully, and it was it had the look of a badass champion.
He was a simple guy who he came to fight.
Yeah. That was something I was really hoping to see was him win the big title, and that fell through.
Well, and And one thing that hurt him, and again, the thing with fans, is you had all these assholes that are sitting there just wanting to chant Goldberg and all this crap while he's wrestling on TV.
Yeah.
You know, that does not help at all, because people who don't know who he is, they're going to pay attention to that. They're going to pay attention to that crowd reaction. They're going to go with what that is.
And on my show, I asked him about that. I brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he first debuted, it was Goldberg chants the whole time, and he
for
said
almost a year. It seemed like.
And I asked him, I said, did you think that was going to like ruin you? And his reaction to what happened with the Goldberg chants is when Feed Me More was created, and instantly the chant was dropped and it became Feed Me More. Yeah. That's where Feed Me More came from, to get rid of that Goldberg chant.
Huh.
It worked.
I mean, and let's be honest, when he was in that corner setting up that clothesline,
everybody chanted it.
Everybody in that arena was saying "Feed me more."
Yeah, that was he was toe to toe in merchandise sales with John Cena.
Yeah,
I believe it. I believe it, because there for a while he was getting the bigger and better reaction.
And if you see his stuff today, everything says "Feed Me More" because he owns that trademark.
Right.
No, the rumor was him going to AEW, and then that got shut down this past week.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I read it from. I read it from another source. They said AEW had no interest in signing him. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
That could be just them trying to keep it under wraps.
Well, one thing I've noticed with AEW, it seems like certain people just have no chance of ever working there, and then others get there solely because they know the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's something I've noticed.
I think if Ryback goes to AEW, he's gonna thrive.
There's two places where I can see him ending up. It's either New Japan or AEW.
But do you think he would fit with the New Japan style?
No, he's more of an entertainer.
Yeah.
So
he's not. He doesn't have the background for a New Japan. A collegiate wrestling or some kind of sport, something like that, which a lot of those guys have.
Yeah. You know how you make him, how you get AEW to be interested in him? You say, okay, well, we have no one on this roster that can go toe to toe with Team Taz, which is Powerhouse Hobbs, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, these big ass dudes.
Who's that other guy that's on Taz's team now?
Yeah.
There's no one to go against them. Oh, look, out comes Ryback for the save. The little kid, that's actually that's Taz's son.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Who was training with Cody, and then they took him back to Taz's team to play the heel. But out comes Ryback for that save. You're gonna tell me there's no interest there? Feed Me More chance throughout.
Yeah.
Ryback coming to the save for like Darby Allin.
That'd be a good way to bring him in.
Yeah, that could work.
That'd be a real good way to bring him in. But we'll see. Like I said, they always say never in professional wrestling. So a lot of people are still hoping for a CM Punk WWE return. I'm hoping for a Ryback AEW debut.
If Ric Flair and Buddy Rogers both can end up in WWE, anything's possible.
If Hulk Hogan could be on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown within weeks, in 2021, anything is possible.
Well, also the fact that another thing we can throw there with Hogan, the fact that he's the first ever IWGP champion. That's another thing we'd throw in that list. If Hogan can win that belt from that company.
Yeah.
Well, now we got to the last segment of the show, with our classic matches of the week. The way me and Nick usually do is we pick one random match that we thought stood out from the time that we've been watching wrestling and discuss why it stood out to us. Like this week, I chose the R-Truth versus Cena match for the WWE title from Capital Punishment. That'd probably be the only time we ever seen Truth get a push like that.
In WWE, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that match was a great match. It really showcased R-Truth as a performer.
R-Truth is somebody who is severely underrated, just terribly underrated.
The only one to defeat Ric Flair's title record.
Yeah.
He's the 450, 595 South, European
IWGP Junior middleweight, whatever.
595, whatever you want to call it, champion.
But I mean, and he was an NWA champion.
Please say he was the first black NWA champion, right?
I believe he was.
I think he was.
Yeah. Ron Simmons was the first black world champion, period.
Yes.
But that was just after the NWA changeover to WCW. Yep. But if I remember right, Truth is the first black NWA champion.
Now, what year was that he won that NWA?
Oh, that was like 2003, something like that. Yeah.
That was early 2000s.
Because he beat Ken Shamrock for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just saw where Shamrock was on Impact this past week, too. They were talking about his suspension, where he got suspended for
another steroid violation. He's famous for that.
He has whooped everybody's ass.
Yeah.
Even his partner, Sammy Callahan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sammy probably earned that ass whooping for something backstage. So
I had Shamrock on my show.
Really?
2 months ago, I think.
Yeah, that was the first time I seen your show.
And let me tell you, he is the most down to earth guy you're gonna come across, and he's so good hearted too. Like, he talked a lot about like what he's doing now, like to help children and different things that he does, and it's just like not what you see on TV.
Yeah,
I think that's the best thing about pro wrestling is that you can play this guy on TV, but you're complete opposite in person, and I like both. So what? Might as well.
Yeah.
Nick, what was your classic match of the week?
Well, my pick was this is going way back. Well, for now it is, but this is Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask from it was a WWF match, a show at Madison Square Garden in 1982. Marcus, have you watched this yet? Or
I have not yet. I haven't yet.
Joey, have you seen this match before, or any of their matches?
I've seen this match before. I can't recollect like much from it, but I've definitely seen it before.
But one thing about these guys is, they're way ahead of their time. They're doing stuff in 1982 that you would see in a run-of-the-mill match now. Tiger Mask, I think, was the first guy I can remember going back in time to run up the ring post and do a backflip off the top. And then you had Dynamite with, the flying headbutt and, all the technical wrestling he could do. And if you ever watch Dynamite Kid, you'd think you're watching Chris Benoit because that was his idol. And he wrestles almost identical to him.
Oh, wow.
So with this match, you just see a lot of, because at that time, 1982 in WWF, it was, you had Sergeant Slaughter, Pat Patterson, but it was still in that transition of the old school style guys to what WWF would be known for with like the Hogans and stuff. And this match kind of came in the middle of that, but showed something totally different than what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna check that match out probably after we finish this, and I'm gonna try to check that while I'm doing the editing. So
yeah.
Anything with Dynamite Kid was
Joey. I know you were talking about a classic match earlier. You wanted to pick out what was that match?
The classic match. See, I have all different matches to pick. It's really hard to pick, but I think just the most appropriate one to discuss is a match that, as of this day, we're recording this. There, what was it? 33
years.
33 years ago, main event. Andre the Giant, the rematch from Mania. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. We saw on SmackDown tonight, 33 years ago. Andre the Giant, the greatest, giant to ever do, perform. I think that's a match that we need to, at least acknowledge now that, being 33 years exact.
Yeah.
But if you're going to ask me like a classic match that I would just pick out of the blue to watch, if you ask me to just pick one match, it's got to be probably one of my favorite matches of all time. 2004, No Way Out. Eddie Guerrero wins the WWE Championship from Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Yeah.
That match made me feel something I don't think I ever felt.
Yeah.
Ever, like watching a wrestling match.
Well, it's such a moment.
Yeah. Like if you're a wrestling fan and you're feeling down, or if you're like having a bad day, or if you're like in any mood, go watch that match and your day is going to be something different.
Even if the only thing you see of that is just Eddie's reaction at the end.
And his family and the crowd. Like I've never seen a crowd react the way they did there.
I the only thing that I could think of to compare it to, actually something we just mentioned, was Ron Simmons winning the world title. That was a similar.
Yeah.
But that Guerrero one still is bigger.
Yep. That's one match that, if you ask me, one of my favorite matches of all time, just comes to mind, because Eddie Guerrero, I think, is one of my top 3 of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely was one of the greater performers, one of the best performers.
Yeah.
And not just him, his entire family, all great guys.
Chavo, everybody.
Yeah, you had Hector, they're
now his
Glory,
daughter,
all of them, Mondo.
His daughter's called now, Vicky in AEW.
Her daughter, Shaw.
Yeah, she was there a few times in AEW. She was a ring announcer. She did some other stuff, but I don't think she's performed yet.
Okay.
And she's married to Aiden English, isn't she?
Married to Rusev Day Jr.
Yeah. All right, guys. There you have it. For our classic matches, I picked R-Truth versus Cena for the WWE title from Capital Punishment. Nick, he picked Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask from a WWF event from 1982 in Madison Square Garden. And Mr. Joey Karni, he picked Eddie Guerrero versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title, right?
WWE title.
From No Way Out 2003. The links for these matches will be posted on the Facebook page shortly after the video in this week's episode becomes available on all social media platforms, podcast streaming services, YouTube, anywhere you choose to watch, listen to podcasts or watch videos. Again, Joey, thanks for being on the show this week. We really enjoyed sitting down, talking wrestling with you, getting a whole different mindset and perspective, and on what we talked about it. Talk about every week.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you guys reaching out and asking me to come on. Any chance I get to talk about pro wrestling, it's a good time.
Definitely.
I just want to say it was a pleasure having a civil conversation with somebody that seems to be rare with wrestling, and I do appreciate getting viewpoints from everyone and being able to sit down and break stuff down. So thank you very much. It's been a fun talk.
I appreciate that too, and I try to do that too a lot, because like I'm someone who I can like find different perspectives, different things. But I think like, who wants to hear a conversation if everybody just arguing? Nobody wants that.
Nothing really gets discussed that way. You're just arguing with each other.
When you're talking about pro wrestling, something that's so near and dear to us. I mean, being podcasters, you want to talk about it. You don't want to just leave the fighting for them in the ring and let us talk about it.
Exactly.
So can I just ask a quick question for you, Joey, really quick? Because I'm just curious. It's just for my personal curiosity. When did you start watching wrestling, and what was the moment that made you a fan?
I started watching wrestling at like 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird, because my grandfather was a war veteran.
Right.
He suffered from PTSD, had a drinking problem, and pro wrestling was the one thing that like made him like zone out and like enjoy himself and smile and like interact with something that wasn't that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I got older, that was just something that was always like consistent.
Right.
And then I think I don't remember too much from my early days, because he was a WCW guy.
Okay.
It was that transition. It was like I was born in 93, and around in the 90s, it was between WCW and WWE, where like Hogan was going back and forth.
Yeah.
Everybody was going back and forth. So I remember him watching WCW. And then in the later 90s is when I was a little older and, seeing Austin, seeing McMahon, seeing The Rock, 96, 97.
Right.
That was it. That was it for me.
Right. And I grew up watching wrestling in that same era. I was born in 91. And I remember the first time I saw The Undertaker in like 95 on like a Saturday morning Superstar show, which most people probably don't even know what I'm talking about right now.
Superstars? You mean that show on the network?
At one time, Superstars was about the only thing people that didn't have cable could get. We didn't have cable, so we had like 4 channels, and Superstars was it. But
that's how a lot of people watch wrestling. I think they had certain channels, and wrestling was always on one of those channels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I was way behind Josh. I ain't started watching. I didn't start watching until about it was like 06.
Really?
I was born in 94. I watched it one time with my dad. I remember seeing Steve Austin on there, and I always watched whatever they watched on TV. I ain't seen it on there since that night. But then I started watching
Steve Austin's my favorite of all time.
I started watching it again after some of my friends had started getting me into it. So I started watching it at home. And one of the first episodes I remember, it was after Vengeance. It was after it was that pay-per-view DX versus the Spirit Squad. Then you had Ric Flair and Mick Foley. They were in a match. The only thing I remember, I started watching the Raw after Vengeance. And the only thing I remember from that episode was, I think it was Ric Flair that was cutting the promo. I don't know why, but that's the one thing that stuck out was Ric Flair.
Right.
In that feud he was having with Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great feud. That was a real feud too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hated each other for real.
They did not like each other.
Yeah, there's some real stuff there.
Yeah.
But we'll see, like, with me, like, one of the coolest things, like, I remember, like, is because my dad watched wrestling in the 70s, So, but back then it was NWA. He grew up in Virginia. That's all you got was NWA. So he was watching the original Blackjacks, Blackjack Mulligan, Lanza, Flair, Harley
of all time.
Harley Race was the champion when he started watching. So
he knew what a real world champion was.
Oh, some of the stories I've heard. See, Blackjack Mulligan's his favorite wrestler. A 6'7" pissed off cowboy, and but he's just telling me all this stuff, like these just wild, bloody brawls these guys were having. Just it was like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Joey, I want to thank you again for coming on, Big Bang Wrestling this week and joining us in the discussions. And for everybody who's not aware of who Joey is, Joey hosts his own podcast. It's a very successful podcast. I encourage anybody who hasn't to go listen to it. It's called The Angle Podcast. You can find it on those YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, anywhere podcasts are available.
Yeah, lots of great content.
I appreciate that, guys. Yeah, it's fun. You talk wrestling, and like this, we could talk for hours. So
yeah,
definitely.
2.5 hours in, and we still want to keep going.
Yeah, man. I told you I was on a call. This was for 15 minutes. We went for like 2.5, 3 hours. So
yeah.
Again, thanks for being on. For everybody who hasn't watched Big Bang before, I'm Marcus.
And I'm Nick.
And we are out.